Hello everyone, welcome to Good Journeys Tarot. I'm Rosemary, and today I'm going to be responding to a older hashtag, um, Decks for Decades, which Dawn Michelle just did on Boho Tarot for her birthday. And since I've just hit a milestone birthday in the last year, I thought this was a pretty cool idea, and I would go ahead and give it a shot myself. So I turned 50 this year. Yay. Okay. So I've got 5 decks here, and let's just jump right in. So for age up to 10 years old, the deck I chose was the Wildwood. And the reason that I chose the Wildwood is because growing up, I lived next to a river. And I spent all of my time as a kid, especially when I was younger, playing in the woods and in the river, and just generally being a barefoot outdoors person. And to me, the Wildwood just screams connection with the earth and the outdoors and water. And so that's why this just really speaks to me from that perspective as a young person, um, because that's where I spent all of my time. I was just barefoot in the mud, in the trees, in the river, enjoying life, and which kids should do, right? So that's the Wildwood for years 0 to 10. Now, the next decade is one that I think is kind of awkward. Really, ages 11 through 20 should be broken up into about 3 different groups, right? Because you go through so many changes during that era. And the person you are between 10 and 12 is not the person you are between 13 and 15. And even 15 to 20, there's a vast difference because you've gone from being a child to a teenager to an adult. Um, the deck that I chose for this is the Ride or Wait Tarot. The reason I chose this is because I felt like there is some whimsy here, and it's a fun deck. And it kind of is just reminded me of my teenage years, the youthfulness, and also things that I was going to. I was always the good kid, as far as anyone knew, until I got out of high school, and then everybody realized I was just the good kid because nobody knew I was doing the same things as everybody else, right? Yeah, so this deck really for that time frame, I think speaks to me. In particular, the Devil card in here, if I can find it, is one that just reminds me of that time of my life. I was one of those kids that went to parties when I was in high school, but I was still always perceived as the good kid. They assumed I was the driver in high school, but not necessarily, right? Um, so that is the Rider Waite. And then for 21 to 30, this was a no-brainer. This was easy peasy to pick because from the age of 21 to 30, I was a evangelical minister and training at seminary to be a minister. And so it was all very tied to my work in the church. And the deck that I chose for that is the Spirit Keeper's Tarot. The reason being is, one, the Spirit Keeper's Tarot is really what drew me back to some aspects of my evangelical faith, which I had abandoned in my uh, 30s and 40s. And so in my 20s, when I was a minister, I was all about studying. And this deck really is one that was very deep. I studied intently on it because it had so much esotericism. It was learning, you know, all about the Thoth and about the RWS. It also is an angel deck. For those who don't know, the courts are actually guardians and whatnot that are representative of angels. And so it really kind of drew me back to the aspects of Christianity that I still value. Um, but so that's why I really associate this one with that time period, just the connection to faith and religion and belief. And this deck really, when I started working with it a few years ago, really helped me connect back to that time in my life um, where I had been reluctant to embrace anything Christian um, for many years after my 20s. So that was my 20s. So in my 30s, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out who I was. That's when I moved to Atlanta to pursue other options other than ministry and figure out who I was. And I changed so much over that decade. Um, one day to the next, I was a different person. And so the deck that really resonated for me with that is the deck of the Bastard. And for those of you who don't know about the deck of the Bastard, you could actually change it to any background that you wanted, any card stock. It had lots of options for you to tinker with, like the names and the keywords, whether to have them, not have them. All of that it was editable. But also, this deck in itself, I don't think really knows what it wants to be, right? Because it's actually, as it says, the deck of the bastard. It's a bastardization of multiple decks. So while you'll see they use the RWS images for the pip cards, they changed them to coins instead of pentacles. And then with the courts, they used a particular antique tarot. You'll see some of the beautiful kind of Marseille style cards that are used for the aces. Um, and then for your majors, there's also these older deck images from antiquity. And so it doesn't know quite what it wants to be. And that's really where I was in my 30s, trying to figure out who I was, what I wanted out of life, where I was going, and what I was going to be. And so this deck kind of reminds me of that. Last but not least, this is the deck for probably my 40s through today, which I'm only 6 months into my 5th decade. So I don't know what that decade's going to look like, but I can tell you my 40s, I really figured out who I was. I found myself and my voice, and, you know, everything just sort of seemed to come together in my 40s, especially my late 40s. I embraced my identity as a transgender person. I reached a point where I was able to make ends meet financially and didn't struggle quite as much. I figured out what I believed and didn't believe, and connected again with my spiritual self, which I had avoided for a long time. And a lot of that is due to reading the tarot and working through my anxiety and depression of my 30s, trying to figure out who I was, um, and finding myself. And so the deck that I chose for this is actually a newer deck in my arsenal, as it were, and that is the Fyodor Pavlov. And I mainly chose this because it is a gorgeous deck. It's well put together, it's beautiful, and it embraces gender diversity. And that's kind of where I am in my life right now. I feel like I am in a good place. I feel like I look better than I've ever looked. I feel better than I've ever felt. I'm just content. I am who I want to be and have been meant to be. And so this deck really, to me, epitomizes that. It's gorgeous. It's organized like I like things, but it's pretty and romantic, decorative like I like things. Just love the backs of these cards. They're pen and ink with watercolor. Fyodor Pavlov is a tattoo artist, so you'll recognize some of that style in some of his cards. And then the back is watercolored with gold embossed stars. So yeah, I think this is where I am, who I am, what I am wanting from life right now. And it is very diverse. That's one of the things over the last couple of years that I've struggled with is, can I continue to work with decks that are not diverse? Um, because I still can see myself in most decks, but can I see my querents in all of these decks? And so diversity has become important. And so that's why this is a deck for this last decade, and who I am and where I am. So please do like and subscribe my channel, and please post in the comments your favorite decks that you think speak to the decades of your life, or do a VR. It is an older tag, and below you'll not only see Boho Tarot's link, but you're also going to see the link for the original video. The name of the person escapes me right now. So until next time, good journeys.